Hello there. Welcome to the Rooted Asian American Youth Ministry Roundtable. I am Terrence at FCBC Walnut in Southern California, where I serve as the family pastor. Today, in part two of this particular month, we are joined by two friends and a special guest. And the way by which we've been talking has been leveraging the fact that we serve throughout the country in different churches, but then also we represent different generations as well in our experiences and life stages. And so for this second episode, I'd love for us, to first introduce ourselves, but then after that, we're going to just jump right into it, where we're going to talk to JYau and ask him a question from different perspectives of what we are coming from. And so with that, I'm going to ask Dorothy to share.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Dorothy Lau here, serving in Rockville, Maryland, and been here for nearly a decade, not quite, but I am glad to be here and also to have Justin Yau or JYau come along with us, as he is a former student of mine, at least when I first started out in youth ministry. So a very full circle here, but looking forward to us chatting together.
What's going on, everybody? Justin Wong here, representing the South region of the country.
The nation of Texas.
The nation of Texas. Been in student and family ministry for about 25, 26 years now, and loved every single moment of it. And just glad to be on with another Justin.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. Hi everyone, I'm Justin Yau. I'm the current youth pastor at Chinese Christian Union Church in Chicago. I've been working for about 2 years and part-time 2 years before that. And as Dorothy shared, was a youth when she first started, and so definitely impacted in very many ways through that.
Okay, I gotta ask, were you scared of Dorothy when you were younger?
First impressions.
Probably a little bit. She served at our, I think one of my distinct memories is when I was like a eighth grader at our youth camp, and she was working as an all-purpose counselor, and so she definitely was in charge of, and probably often had to keep us in line.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We were quite rowdy, quite like we're the oldest there, so we're walking around doing whatever we wanted, and often got injured or hurt, and Dorothy would often be the one taking us to the nurse.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Well, you know what? I'm going to hand the time to Dorothy first, who's going to share from the perspective of a colleague.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, I'm glad to have JYau here, as he is now serving in youth ministry for almost a handful of years. And just so glad to have him on our podcast. I know that as many youth ministers may be starting out in full-time ministry, it can be hard to develop a sense of community and camaraderie, or just finding places that feel like you can be yourself, or even that you are allowed to feel like you could be served. And so I'm really, really delighted just to introduce JYau to this space with the rooted community, and looking forward to inviting maybe others in the future as well, just to hear war stories or whatnot. But as speaking from the perspective of a colleague, right, JYau, as someone who has grown up in the church you now serve, as we have both come from the same context, there can be a difficult mixture of being a friend at times to fellow brothers and sisters in the church. And then on the other hand, you may have to also fulfill a primary role of representing church staff. So one question, and I'll follow up with another later. One question is, how have you found safe spaces for connection, community, and even confidentiality because of your unique circumstances?
Yeah, I think this is a question, a situation, a circumstance that I've really wrestled with in my time in ministry. Definitely did not think too much about what would change the moment I walked onto staff. And it changed very quickly, and it was very jarring at first. I think the best way I could describe it is my first year felt like a lot of learning about where I was losing my safe spaces, relationships or friendships that were changing because of my role. I think I became less of Justin as friend, but more as Justin who represents staff. And so there were, I think, in good intentions, like there was a change in expectations for me. and conduct and behavior. And I think a lot of my wrestling was, I think the expectations came very quick, but the grace did not follow with. And
Mm.
I think maybe in that they wanted to help me grow into someone worthy of the calling, but I think something that was forgotten along the way was that transformation is not instantaneous and it is a part of the process. And yeah, I think, uh, but in the midst of that, I think what it also solidified were what are actually my safe spaces?
Mm.
Who are the people that I can go to in honesty and in comfortability? And so at the beginning, I really sought to or felt like I just could not go to my own church for that safe space. And so I think I was really blessed by other people who actually were former CCUC or Chinese Christian Union Church who went into ministry, who reached out. And so I think those were places where I found a lot of peace and comfort, and ultimately places that I felt really seen and understood in kind of the struggles of my ministry. But something that I also came to understand that wasn't going to be very sustainable. I'm not always going to be able to meet with a pastor at a different church in a different time zone on a regular basis. What I needed was something constant. And so I was also very lucky that I had a very close friend who returned to Chicago in preparation for missions, and her and her husband became people that I could go to kind of share in, like, as you're about to go into ministry abroad and as I am in ministry now, let's talk, let's confide about what maybe the difficulties of navigating even the intricacies of our church. But I think they were people that I felt like I could trust because they understood the hardships of what was going to come, at least.
Mm.
And I think eventually I grew to find some accountability with people that I felt like I could trust in the church that would still look at me not because of my position, but because of our friendship.
Yeah.
And so I did eventually find a few brothers at the church who I think understood that what I was looking for maybe wasn't necessarily always someone to provide a solution, but just to sit and to listen.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think the navigating of that took a bit of time.
Mm.
I don't, there isn't like a class that I took at Moody that was like working at your church 101 or like what is it like to go to the church that you grew up at. And I think even stepping into it, there's a bit of fear, right? I mean, the most common passage that I heard is, right, is like there is no honor for or profit in their hometown, right? And I think that was something that I really was starting to feel. But I think a bit of the blessings and the uniqueness of my time at CCUC is the struggle was people looked at me not, at least as I was growing up, not because of who my parents were, because no one knew my parents. They didn't go to church. They weren't at CCUC. But I think one of the fears that I had about, the lack of respect or honor that I would get in my position is, they saw me grow up still. They
Yeah.
saw me as, the kid at VBS that was running around that would get picked up like the late as they could because their parents weren't here to, the high school youth that, implemented new rules at our camps because, I brought a grill when I wasn't supposed to because, senior boys get hungry at 11
You say a
p.m.
grill or a
I'm pretty sure it's like
girl?
2
A
a.m.
grill.
Okay.
Yeah,
George Foreman.
we smuggled a charcoal grill because someone in previous years had brought a George Foreman grill, and so, being Asian and not wanting to break the rules, we said, well, it doesn't say explicitly a charcoal grill, and so we saw that as an opportunity. But like, I mean, that showed up in my interview. The deacons were the same deacons where they had to implement that rule. So they were like, well, if you're wondering who Justin is, if you don't remember, about 10 years ago, we had to put new rules in and new sanctions into our youth camp. He is a part of the reason why.
Real guy.
Yeah.
That's
And
why I said
so,
he's iconic. He's iconic.
well, yeah, I think there was a lot of fear in like
Yeah.
those things coming to haunt me in a sense of like they would never look at me beyond those moments.
Hmm.
And I think I do still find that from some people. but
They
I
see you
think,
as your past, not as
yeah, they
who you
see
are
me
as a
as
person.
my past, but not like who I am today or how God has transformed me since then.
Yeah.
But I think maybe something that I've been in particularly blessed is that has kind of stayed outside of my ministry context, to be honest. Yeah, there are people that I'm serving in that are serving in our youth group that they served me when I was younger. And so when I stepped in, actually as an intern initially, I was really scared because I thought, who are they going, like, they're not going to listen to me. Like, these guys got like 10, 15 years in the ministry. I got 6 months. Like, what am I bringing to the table? But they were very quick to submit, in a sense. They were very quick to yield. And I think a lot of them, they just sat in the trust of, like, you're in school for this. You have been called. We may have more practical experience, but what I really appreciate is they saw that their role was almost to help prepare the way
Hmm.
and help prepare me for the position, right? And I think that was something that was really nice about, and eventually they became my safe spaces, people that I could go to, where I would just be like, oh, I suck at administration, and I would sit and talk to them. I'm like, I don't get Excel sheets. I don't think I ever will. It's really just not for me. And they were open and they were honest and they were willing to teach me. And
Hmm.
as frustrating as part of that journey probably was, I think that was comforting because I think what I saw in that was that they didn't expect me to come transformed already.
Hmm.
They didn't expect me to, like, be excellent in everything that the church needed, but they recognized that I needed to grow and I
Yeah.
needed time.
And they're willing to walk with you through that
Yeah, and they're
process.
willing to walk with me through that. But I think the hard part is just not everyone is on that page yet.
Hmm.
And I think the church is kind of getting it and kind of not. I think I constantly sit in this, like, weird place at CCUC of, like, what I self refer to myself as, like, the nepo baby of the church, because, like, I just came in, did everything that they told you not to do when you start at the church, which is change things. And they let me, but that came as a double-edged sword because I think that also closed walls off for some people.
Hmm. Yeah, change
And
is hard.
yeah, and so I think, yeah, the safe spaces ultimately at my church probably were not places that I would have anticipated. But I think it is because I didn't anticipate them that makes them much more valuable. Because I think in terms of trying to find safe spaces, I've found much more comfort in is that I still don't know where all of mine are. But that's a good thing because that means that there's a lot more to explore.
Praise the Lord. My name is Isaiah Marshall, and I serve as the Director of Ministry Development here at Rooted. One of the most frequent requests we get here at Rooted is to create a scope and sequence. Now, this is a plan that helps you decide which of Rooted's curriculum to teach and when to teach it. We heard your request, and now we are ready to share the Rooted Scope and Sequence guide with you all at no cost. 3 other veteran youth pastors and myself developed this guide to provide you with a roadmap for teaching the Bible to your students all throughout their middle and high school years. The 2 options we offer will ensure that you teach each genre of scripture. They include 28 plus books of the Bible and all the lessons you need for your students' entire time in your youth ministry. For brand new middle schooler to high school graduate, whether you choose to walk through the Bible chronologically, where students will gain a greater understanding of the biblical narrative as a whole, or you rather journey through scripture, taking a more developmental stage approach. Now, this approach keeps in mind the unique needs and developmental stages of each age and grade of the students you serve. We have both plans written out for you. Now, be sure to download the Scope and Sequence guide for free and purchase all the included curriculum and the discounted Scope and Sequence bundle to get started. God bless you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that you are able to recognize not only where you want to grow and you need to grow, not trying to hammer that in, right? It shows that we are still being formed, right? Not just by the gospel, but in our own spaces. And for one, it's sometimes saddening, and I think others can empathize that when you enter into a space that has been very familiar, inevitably, when you step into the role of being a pastor or a shepherd or some type of titled leader, the availability of the people that you can trust starts to shrink because they may not understand as closely what you have to deal with. And you may have to exercise more discretion, even if you wish you could talk to more people about what you're wrestling with, you know. So I feel for you, brother, and I'm sorry that there have been the loss of spaces, but at the same time, praise God, there's been a gaining of newer spaces and those relationships. Maybe just on a quick other follow-up question is, now that you've been in the field, what are you experiencing now that you would have wished seminary could have prepared you for?
I think what would have been really, or I think something that I heard a lot going into it is like the pastor's role is quite a lonely one. Um, but I think what I wish seminaries really maybe like emphasize that doesn't have to be the case. That there are ways to approach it, and I'm talking more about it. I think we learn a lot about how to care for the congregant's life and how to care and shepherd them, but maybe there could be more tools in which like we learn to fill our own cups, but also learning or even giving opportunities to, or maybe even a re-emphasis on looking outside of our bubbles. I think that's something that I like really fell quickly into when I first started was like the ministry's in front of me, the church is getting ready to go, so I just run. And what I recognized and what I was really thankful for is that there were moments that just almost like ripped me out of that bubble, ripped me out of that space. I think like speaking at your retreat last year was really helpful because it was the first time in like maybe in an 8, 9 months where I like was just not doing ministry and being able to pull myself out of that space to even look at like what I was doing and go like, oh, this is not working. Like this won't allow me to hit the 40 years of beautiful ministry. Um, right. And we don't really learn of those things. That's kind of something that I had to learn like almost the hard way, where it's just like getting to breaking points. Um, that, yeah, I think it would have been really helpful to learn, but I think I'm glad to have stumbled into in this season that, whether it's, even in this podcast or at the CHC conferences or just conferences in general, those are great opportunities to step out of your workspace, to take a deep breath and to compose, which, I think is necessary at times.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm also going to hand it off to Pastor Justin and Pastor Terrence, and they can also ask him additional questions because I'm sure they're clamoring to hear more about what you've been going through and how ministry has shaped you as much as just serving the Lord where you are.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me go ahead and take the next question. So I'm going to ask from the perspective of a parent. We know that making disciples of the next generation is accomplished through a life-giving partnership between the church and the home, not the church or the home. And as a youth minister, I'm sure, JYau, that you often hear from your supervisors, your fellow staff members, and even parents in terms of what is expected, in terms of instructions, expectations for accomplishment. But they might not always have the opportunity to hear from you, and more importantly, to know your heart. So here's my one simple question for you. What do you need in terms of support and understanding from parents? And feel free to just speak as concretely and as straightforward as you can, because this is an opportunity, for you and also for parents to hear from you.
Yeah, I think something that parents can do to maybe better support the ministries that they're at is, I think, come to understand that the youth ministry is not what it was like when they were kids. I think there are things that this generation is wrestling with that are new, that are maybe things that we would have assumed you would wrestle with if they were in college, but now they're meeting them as early as middle school or high school. And I think that kind of affects how parents choose to support things and how they maybe choose not to, right? Like when I am teaching our Sunday school, the parents are all in on me teaching on like systematic theology, or they want me to teach on like these gray topic areas. But maybe they're not so supportive of like the shape of my ministry, and that we do get a lot of these either non-Christians or new Christians, and so we got to get back to the basics. And so even just talking about prayer as simply as teaching on it, the parents will see that as like, oh, you're wasting our kids' time. Like my kid knows how to pray, so can we skip this and get to the hard stuff? And I think what I see the youth ministry as is a place in which kids learn to grow at their own pace, but also they learn to wrestle at their own pace. And so I think something that I've been trying to work with some of our parents who have kids who are like excelling in their faith is to see this as the grounds in which we grow the servant heart, right? That if they're not going to be learning systematic theology, that is okay, because what we can do is we can shepherd this moment and allow these students to see that like there's so much to gain by helping others grow. That growth is not an individual's situation, but can be a communal thing. And I think that is what we can really find in a youth ministry that is like really supported by parents, is that they recognize that like, yeah, this is a space where newcomers, new Christians can come to grow, both being shepherded by someone in my position, but also shepherded by peers who see and who know maybe a little bit more than them. And it may feel a little bit kind of like the blind lead the blind, but there's a lot of camaraderie that's built there, a lot of relationships that can form that will last a lifetime in that space. And I think what it boils down to is whether or not a parent is willing to take that risk, to have their kid experience something that they didn't. Right? Because, sometimes they're looking back on their time in youth ministry like I do often. And I think about things that were happening when I was a kid, and we look at it with rose-tinted glasses.
Mm-hmm.
That the ministry was perfect, that it was great, that we were learning all these awesome things. And that's why I'm here today, without recognizing that, like, as much as the fun times in youth ministry shaped us, the hard times did too. And those hard times were needed. Right. And so your kids, they see the world differently than you. And so they're going to need a different experience, and that's okay. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that. With that, I'm going to hand the time over to Justin, who's going to speak as a mentor.
All right, JYau. Quick question as we get this section started. What's if you had like your dream, like at the end of your time of youth ministry, what would that look like? If everything went your way, the good and the bad, but what's like a dream of yours? Have you thought through that?
I think that my dream would be to hear that the students that I worked with found their places at the churches that they're at. Whether that means that, I think in particular, they found a place where their gifts and talents and things that made them unique, like, are being utilized by the church. Whether it's like a student who's really into the arts, and so now they're helping the church design things, or like a good friend of mine who is now on our church staff handling all of our camera work because that's just what his passion was. I think maybe helping the church bridge that gap of like there is more than just worship as a form of our worship, and that there's a ton of other things that these kids have that are beyond the books that we can foster and help them recognize that, like, oh, this is a gifting that God has given you that he will use if we allow him to reach people. And so I think for me, that's kind of like what I've been trying to shape ministry about. And that's what I would love to hear and see as the fruit of kind of the labor.
That's awesome. I mean, I would say challenge yourself every year to just go, hey, let's just dream, right? Like what would I want? Like what would I want to see happen? What I want to see kind of legacy in terms of your ministry, but also in the lives of the church.
Praise the Lord. The Youth Ministry Unscripted Podcast is the rebranded version of the Rooted Youth Ministry Podcast. In Youth Ministry Unscripted, we talk real, honest, and raw about youth ministry. The Youth Ministry Unscripted Podcast aims to advance gospel-centered youth ministry by equipping and empowering youth ministers and parents to faithfully disciple students toward lifelong faith in Jesus.
So keep that on the forefront, and which leads me to kind of the real question is, if that's the dream for you, you know what's at stake. I think you take the calling seriously but passionately, not being naive to it. So the question is, what do you need to succeed, to flourish? Because I think that's a question we don't typically ask inside of the Asian American churches. I want our listeners, especially those in leadership positions, to hear from somebody like you who, now that we know a little bit more of your story, upbringing within the church, freshly out of school, excited about ministry, but understanding the realities. What do you need? Like, what can we do as a church, as mentors, for you? What do you need right now?
Yeah, I think the word that comes to mind is empowered. I think that's maybe something of a broad term, but I think for myself, like what allowed me to fall in love with this ministry and what has allowed me to continue to do it over the years is that there were people along the way that empowered me and I think honestly just believed that I could do it.
Mm,
In particular, especially in moments where I felt like I could not.
okay.
I think my first step into ministry was leading in my college ministry, leading my own small group. And at that time, I felt like out of the roster that was selected, I was the least qualified.
Right.
Right? Because, you know, some like the two people that I was serving with, one guy is like super type A, very organized, and then the other person that was serving was like in ministry, like was studying to go into ministry. And at that moment, like I just saw myself as like, what do I bring to the ministry than like good vibes? Like I thought that that was all I could bring. And actually, the leader there asked that I would serve not with like kind of on my own, leading my own small group, while those two kind of led their own like a small group together. And I really challenged it at that time because I was just like this is not for me. Like we're picking the worst here to do that, and like they really pushed me to really reconsider,
Mm,
and to see that I like that I was bringing more than just vibes, and that there's something here that maybe I don't see yet. But if you know, if I couldn't trust in myself, that I would trust in their decision
yeah.
that this would go well. And like honestly, since that moment, like I have just been kind of going full steam ahead,
Yeah.
because in moments like that too, where I felt that again, like there's just someone who stepped in and said like, yeah, like I can tell that you don't believe in yourself, but I want you to know that like I believe in this and I believe in what you're doing and I see the vision and I want you to succeed in that. And yeah, I think like it's really important there. I think
Yeah.
something that I'm seeing is even for myself or even in my peers is that there's a lot of negative self-talk
Sure.
that needs to be kind of broken up. And I think something that I personally have come to recognize is like because I was deprived of it so much as a youth, that like words of affirmation are so powerful for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And I
good.
think I'm also recognizing that's the same with my peers. But what the hard part about it is we don't know that it's so important for us because we still don't receive it enough.
Right.
And like something that I've been trying to do is like even for someone in my position, like how do I empower the next generation? How do I empower the people that I'm serving with or serving over? And I think it is just simply like affirming them in their gifts, affirming them in their callings, and saying like you are more than the work that you do. But like let me tell you how I see that God has made you and created you to do His kingdom work,
Yeah, that's good.
right? And I think that's really helpful to feel like I can go the distance because I think that negative self-talk tells myself that I can't, but hearing from someone that I trust, someone that knows me that says, like, I think you can, that's I think what will kind of sustain long-term ministry.
Excellent. Awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate hearing from your heart, JYau. It's just even the brief time that we've had just now gave me a lot more insight as to why you're doing what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, and just your love of the church and of the people. So, how I wanted this episode to end was just an opportunity for us to encourage one another, including the audience who will be listening and watching. So, on behalf of us here at the roundtable, Justin is going to share something with you. And then after he shares, I'd love for you to encourage and exhort our listening audience as well.
All right. So, on behalf of the Asian American rooted podcast team, and that's a lot of other people who've been supporting and praying from afar, JYau, our biggest thing is know that your personal journey is what matters at this moment too, right? I mean, keep that front and center. The Lord has you on a trajectory harder and more fulfilling than you can imagine, right? And so, a couple of things that we want to encourage you: stay faithful, not just to your calling, but as to your the moment that you remembered being saved, right? That's going to drive you to ministry. There's so many opportunities for you to quit, to compromise, whatever, but it's back to the gospel that grounds you and your passion for the ministry. I mean, that's the thing that really sets all of this apart. So remember, stay faithful to that. Second thing is, there's no wasted seasons. I think if you talk to the three of us, we can always we can tell you gazillion stories of, man, year 5, year 10, year whatever. Like there's so many ups and downs. And a lot of times ministry is harder than most people can admit, but there's no wasted seasons. So every confrontation, every exhaustion, every time you feel like a success and a failure, those are just gifts that the Lord has given you to shape and to change you personally, but also the people that you get to kind of steward at the moment. And then the last one that I want to encourage you is know that we've been praying for your generation for decades, man. Like when I started 20 something years ago, there were very few of us coming back to the Asian American spaces. And so we set out to pray maybe within a decade, maybe 2, maybe 3 decades, there will be a crop of people who are theologically gospel driven, deep, like they want depth more than width. And we were praying for those, but they're also culturally intelligent. They understand how to pastor well. They understand the souls of their people, but also they love the church. And so we were praying for you guys. And so keep that in mind. You're not just doing things randomly in 2026. You're a result of generations of prayer. And so that should encourage, but also should make you kind of aware, man. Like, hey, don't, not saying don't mess this up, but just be like, hey, there's like, we're rooting for you, you know? Like, come on, let's carry that torch, keep it going. And then let's see what happens in the next 20, 30 years. Maybe there's a whole nother batch of people after you, right? And so there's a legacy that you kind of step into the story and that you're going to leave behind. And so be faithful. Don't squander the privilege that the Lord has allowed you to do, and don't disqualify yourself, right? That's the biggest thing, right? And so, man, we here at Rooted, we are cheering you on. There's always a space for you at this table, and so please consider jumping in as well. Hopefully, to see you more at these conferences. But man, we're cheering from you from all across our fields of ministry, but then also just kind of where we are at in terms of our journey as well. So prayers.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for having me on, and I think these conversations are really life-giving. Yeah, and I guess just an encouragement to those that are listening that I think something that I have needed to learn for myself, and I think as I've tried to help others, even gently remind them, is that we often are our hardest critics. We often are in the constant seeking of improvement. I think we forget oftentimes that maybe the person that is hardest to give grace to is ourselves. And yeah, like I said before, like transformation is a process, and we can't rush that. Because that means that we believe that we know more than what God is needing from us. And I think as we grow in giving ourselves grace, we can often also remind ourselves that God has brought us here to this point, and even with how hard it is, if God brought us here, He's not going to leave us here, and He will deliver you because He is good and He is faithful. And I think that's a simple truth to really cling to in hard and difficult seasons, but also a simple truth that maybe we need to remind ourselves when things are going well too.
All right. Great hearing from everyone. Thank you all for listening and watching the Rooted Asian American Youth Ministry Roundtable. We look forward to the next time we can hang out together. Until then, may the Lord bless and keep you as we trust in the death and resurrection of Christ to transform our homes and churches. To find out more about Rooted, go to rootedministry.com. Please be sure to listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and even on YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram at The Rooted Ministry. See you at the conference in October. Register today. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. See you in Nashville.